If you find yourself doing any of these often as a leisure activity, then you've made it into the 1% club. Welcome to Opulence Luxury, where we discuss the luxurious life of the rich. Leisure activities and hobbies are a common way for every one of us to unwind. While common folks might enjoy hobbies like binge-watching their favorite TV shows, playing football or basketball, the rich and famous also have their ways of relaxing and having fun. What majorly differentiates the hobbies of the wealthy and that of other classes is the price. And in this video, we will be looking at some of the opulent hobbies of the wealthy. Yeah, I know you might not indulge in such yet, probably because of your account balance, but trust in yourself that someday you will. Skiing. Skiing has been around since prehistoric times. From being a means of transport to aiding in military operations in winter conditions, it's only in the latest 3 centuries that skiing has naturally evolved into the sport and recreation activity that it is today. And nowadays, skiing is a favored pastime of the wealthy and famous. The electrifying experience gotten by riding downhill might even spur some billionaires to consider owning their resort. Just as rumor had it that billionaire Roman Abramovich wanted to buy the entire Courchevel, the famous French Alps ski resort. And who can blame him? I mean, I'd do the same if I had the dough. Flying a plane. This is another common hobby of the wealthy. Though flying a plane is a childhood dream for many, just a few later get to see their dream come true. And it's quite understandable. The cost of owning a plane and learning how to fly it is nothing close to cheap. So, if you're still interested in chasing your childhood dream of flying a plane, then be ready to make a significant investment of time and money. And if you indeed follow through, you'll be rewarded with the feeling of being on top of the world. Polo. It's no surprise that this gentleman's sport associated with luxury and wealth is on this list. Despite being one of the oldest team sports in the world, it has not lost its appeal to royal families. Hence, it's a no-brainer that it's also an expensive hobby. The sport of kings, as it's often called, requires a lot of money, as you would need to own a horse and pay for full membership in a polo club. And according to Boston Globe, a polo pony can cost as high as $250,000. Polo remains an exclusive sport, which boasts of high-end equipment and facilities worth millions of dollars. Golfing. Although many who don't participate in it find it boring, the club and ball sport is favored by the rich and famous. Former US President Donald Trump was described by retired American professional golfer Jack Nicklaus as someone who loves the game of golf more than he loves money. It's no surprise why Trump and the likes of Clint Eastwood have no problem paying the expensive fees of some of the most exclusive golf club memberships in the world. And by expensive, I mean tens of thousands of dollars. Though you can find a golf course for a short fun, but trust me when I say it takes being in the wealthy class to play in the best of courses in the world and sustain all the costs this hobby requires. Cigarette boat racing. The rich and famous who have a need for speed and love for aquatic adventures enjoy racing cigarette boats. These impressive speedboats can easily catch the fancy of anyone. However, not everyone has the financial capacity to own one. The prices of cigarette boats range from thousands of dollars to millions. By the way, cigarette boats have nothing to do with cigarettes. Rather, they were used in the 20s and 30s by rum runners to transport alcohol into the United States, which at that time was prohibited from being produced, imported, transported, or sold in the country. They were the boats of choice for alcohol smugglers because they could easily outrun other popular boats at that time, including the boats used by the United States Coast Guard as at then. Yachting. This recreational boating activity, which is distinguished from other forms of boating mainly by the priority focus on comfort and luxury, is a pastime only the wealthy can afford. This is mainly because you require a large boat, as well as a crew to maintain it. and the average cost of buying, operating or maintaining a yacht can easily reach into millions of dollars. This luxurious hobby, however, gives you a scenery different from any other. The wealthy, who own yachts and want to feel the adrenaline rush, take it further by indulging in yacht racing, which can be another significant expense. Collecting art. Art, they say, is long, but life is short. That probably explains why the rich not only make the most of their work hours but also their leisure time, even if they have to spend a fortune on a leisure activity like buying a piece of art. Leonardo DiCaprio, David Beckham, and Brad Pitt have all reportedly spent six figures on individual pieces of art. Collecting vintage cars. Aside from collecting art, the rich also indulge in collecting vintage cars as a pastime. I mean, when you have all the money you need in the world, you can collect anything you want. Although, for some people, collecting vintage cars is not just about increasing their car collection. It is also about the connection they have with each vehicle. Some folks enjoy collecting vintage cars because it helps them recreate or relive their good memories. Perhaps it was a car they owned once upon a time and sold for whatever reason. Collecting vintage cars is a rewarding hobby that can be done as an investment, as they tend to gain value over time. But for some people, it's deeper than that. It's all about the nostalgic feeling. Thus, their collections are not for sale. They collect simply to preserve the past. Race car driving. The rich and famous don't just love cars but also have an affinity for life in the fast lane. If you doubt me, ask Rowan Atkinson, who crashed his McLaren F1 not just once but twice while racing. Hollywood superstars Steve McQueen and Paul Newman were also known race car drivers. While getting a few laps on the racetrack in an SSC Totara or McLaren F1 won't make you outrun your problems, but the thrill and spills would definitely add excitement to your life. However, this hobby is not for those with lean wallets, as few minutes on the racetrack can go up to $1,000. Now, imagine doing that beyond a few minutes. Winemaking. Fine wines are not unfamiliar to the taste buds of the wealthy, as many enjoy sipping the beverage. But for some, that's not enough fun, as they go further into growing a vineyard and making wine for themselves, which apparently isn't a cheap venture. It's no surprise why the mansions of the rich and famous often have wine cellars and wineries. The wealthy not only derive pleasure from winemaking, but also earn the bragging right of telling their billionaire friends while dining together, "I brewed it." Skydiving. While the feeling of jumping out of a plane and free-falling through the air can be described as priceless, skydiving is another pricey hobby the rich love. Although a typical jump can cost between $200 and $300, the cost of equipment rentals or taking skydiving lessons takes the price for this venture above cheap. And of course, you trust those in the wealthy class to purchase their own equipment rather than renting. Though the average guy or lady might occasionally afford the skydiving experience, making it a frequent hobby is a big investment. Scuba diving. The feeling of exploring the underwater world and seeing things and creatures that most people might never get to see is next to none. However, this luxurious hobby is one that only the wealthy can afford on a regular basis. The price of a scuba diving certification and equipment might not be considered as very costly, but when you factor in transportation and lodging at the best scuba locations in the world, such as the Great Barrier Reef, Kimbe Bay in Papua New Guinea, and Ras Mohammed National Park in Egypt, underwater diving becomes an expensive pastime. Equitation, the art or practice of horse riding. This skill, which was developed for combat purposes centuries ago, has now evolved into one of the favorite pastimes for the wealthy. Whether they are on a prestigious polo field, somewhere in the woods hunting, or on a racetrack, the rich enjoy horseback riding. And while equitation is becoming more common, the price of buying a horse, paying for riding lessons, training your horse and boarding it isn't cheap. That probably explains why it's more of a hobby for the rich than the ordinary folk. Traveling. While anyone can travel, not everyone can travel as much as they would like to. If you work for someone, you can't just wake up and travel because you feel like. Else, your last time at work will probably be your last at that organization. Secondly, you may even have the freedom and time to travel, but lack the funds to sponsor the trip to your desired location. But the ultra-rich don't have to bother about any of these, as they have their cash working for them and don't have to show up at work every day. Plus, they have the means to sponsor their trips to the most exquisite of destinations. Collecting exotic pets. If you're not satisfied owning a domestic cat or dog, but often find yourself admiring and yearning for wild cats or other exotic pets, I hate to burst your bubble, but these species of animals come with an expensive price tag. Not like you didn't know. Aside from the purchase price, the cost of housing and providing for them isn't cheap. Don't also forget you have to register them in obedience schools. Now, you know why this hobby is one reserved for the wealthy. You may be tempted to judge the likes of Mike Tyson, known for owning tigers, and singer Josephine Baker, who had a pet cheetah, as being extravagant. But I'd say never fault those who can fund their opulent lifestyles. Plus, study shows that owning a pet comes with lots of benefits, which include reduction in stress, anxiety, and depression. They also ease loneliness, encourage exercise and playfulness, and even improve your cardiovascular health. So you see, owning a pet can be rewarding, notwithstanding the associated cost. Philanthropy. Arguably the most popular hobby among billionaires, with more than 50% of the wealthiest people in the world reportedly involved in it. While it is good to make money, it's much better to help meet the needs of the not-so-privileged ones in society. The rich and famous know this, hence their commitments to this cause. It goes without saying that you need to be super wealthy to give out lots of money, and you surely have heard of some charitable organizations owned by those who fall into this category and their huge donations annually. However, the size of your wallet shouldn't stop you from doing good in your own little way. I think this is a good place to end this video. Now, tell us in the comment section which of these you would take up as a hobby if money wasn't a consideration. In addition, don't forget to click on the like and subscribe buttons to enjoy more videos on the luxurious life of the rich.